This is TWiT.
Adam Mosseri, the CEO, testified in front of a Senate panel this week examining social media's negative effects on young people. Of course, Frances Haugen, the whistleblower at Facebook, among all the things she revealed that Instagram had internal studies that showed that young women had a lower self-opinion as a result of using Instagram, that it made them feel bad, in some cases even suicidal. Senators, of course, took this opportunity to show anger and ask sharp questions. Mosseri defended the company's conduct. He said, we've got safety measures in place. And in fact, we don't think Instagram is addictive to young people, and most people are not harmed by Instagram, I guess.
There's so many twisted parts. This one that the government cares about female rights.
Yeah, isn't that a joke?
Yeah,
right. Think of the children.
All right. Instagram is also they're like the ultimate gaslighters in this situation. It's like, what? You're feeling crappy about yourself? No, that's just in your head.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point. Dick Blumenthal and others created Finstas. Remember a couple of months ago, fake Instagram accounts posing as 13-year-old girls, which on the surface sounds kind of creepy. But they were, to be honest, not what you really want your senator to be doing. But the idea was to see what kinds of things they saw. And they certainly were fed a diet, if you will, of, kind of bad food suggestions, bad ideas.
I just wish they did this for every other thing we're fighting for. Like, let's put ourselves in the shoes of people asking for a change.
Yeah.
Like, what does that take? No, I mean, there's a legitimate issue. It just sucks at Instagram until they accept this somehow. Then they'll make a difference. If they're going to be in denial of it, because obviously they're liable and there's legal issues around this, they're going to still fight this, but then we're not going to see anything change.
Instagram also says, well, look, we adhere to COPPA. We don't let people under 13 create accounts, of course. Good luck doing that. We ban specific features for kids under 16. But parents, let kids on. You're an avid Instagrammer, Shira. It's how I keep up with you. On balance, is Instagram a positive? It is in your life, I would say, yes.
Two sides of the coin. I think that a lot of my anxiety, there is self-worth wrapped in it, including when your work is focused around a platform.
You couldn't not be an Instagram user. You have to.
Yeah, well, and I feel like there's a lot of freedom. There's a lot of creativity. I connect with a lot of people and meet a lot of people. There's empowerment. But there are two sides to that coin, including younger and younger, when people are women are wrapping their self-worth around their profiles, or even if they're not building their profiles, but they're like looking at Instagram and the feed and comparing themselves. Yeah, that can be very harmful. And I don't know what the alternative is, though. Like, one, make sure younger and younger people are not on the platform, and that I don't know how you create a feed and filter when that is the world around you. Like, the world around you has this. It's just now an amplified version of that.
Right. Well, exactly. In fact, Gali in our chat room says teenagers have always had depression and body image issues. That didn't start with Instagram. I think really the big problem with Instagram is it allows other people, really, and this is the problem. I don't think it's ads. I think it's that other people curate the pictures and the life that they project on Instagram, and there's no way you can live up to that. I always tell my daughter, don't judge your insides by other people's outsides, because what you're seeing is presentational. It's not you don't know how they feel. They probably feel exactly like you do. Yes?
Most of the times they do, but you can't force people to share those sides of them. They'll share what they want to share.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, how much is Instagram part of that versus just this is where our society is moving?
This is how it is. I don't think it's Instagram's fault. Any platform is going to have this.
But I do think that the more that they're there for creators and for users and create initiatives, and they do acknowledge that there is a problem, then at least that helps. Like, other platforms have acknowledged, YouTube, you could say TikTok a bit. I mean, they're all part of the problem, but the more Instagram fights against this, the more they just seem delusional and continuing to propagate it.
Right. And I remember, I'm sure you do too, Carolina, the days of Twiggy and Kate Moss, these super thin supermodels, which caused eating disorders to ripple throughout the world because everybody thought, oh, well, that's the standard for beauty is concentration camp thin. You have teenage daughters, right?
I have a child, and they were born a girl, and now they're gender fluid, and that brings a whole different layer of, I guess, complication in as much as where they see themselves, who they associate themselves with.
Do they use Instagram?
So they had an account that was a private account when they turned 13. They could not be least interested, and
good.
They
actually
want.
Yeah.
Well, but what is fascinating to me is why, and I do think that Shira is 100% spot on when she says that the Instagram should start with acknowledging there is a problem, because they're spending more time and resources fighting that versus acknowledging and then trying to solve it. The reason why my kid is no longer interested is because it feels like TV. It feels unreal. And what they actually want is a subscription to Discord because they want a community. They want people that they want to communicate with that are similarly minded, have shared interests and all of that. And, it is fascinating to me how I think the younger generation in a way is more savvy to understand what's real and what isn't. But at the same time, it's true, depression and, problem with self-image and weight and so forth has always been there. But it's one thing to see it in your school, your class, your friends, is one other thing to see models and actresses, because that's the idea of beauty. And that is still there. All of that is still there, plus Instagram, right? Yeah. Because the idea of beauty is still the thin and the perfect, and it's still mostly white and blonde and all of that, right? Versus representing the diverse world that we live in. So that's the part where I think my child, being, mixed race and gender fluid, could not actually find what they were looking for from an Instagram perspective.
I do think the world might be changing. I remember in the spring, Unilever, they make Dove and a lot of brands of soap and so forth, said we're not going to use the word normal anymore in any of our products or advertising.
Why is normal?
Because there is no, to say normal is that this is normative. This is what everybody should be like.
Yeah. And
I think that's recognizing the truth. And I think so I think there is more awareness of that. I hope there is. And I completely agree with you. Instagram needn't fight it. This is an opportunity to make a difference, to help fix it. And it certainly is not, we're going to give advice as to how many hours you should spend, and we encourage you to take a break. No, really? TikTok does that too. I hit that every time on TikTok. There's every time, 3 a.m, I'm doom scrolling forever. And finally a guy comes on and says, you really, I swear to God, I don't know. Have you ever seen this? Shira, you must have. Guy comes on.
I have never seen this.
Oh, yeah. One of the TikToks comes up. It's a guy saying, you really ought to get something to drink, take a break.
Move your body.
Move your body. Walk away from the TikTok, buddy. But by then, I've already gone 300 miles down the well, and there's no coming out. Instagram. Go ahead, Alex.
I would just say that there's an important difference between the apps that we haven't covered in this discussion, which is something that came out in Facebook's own research, where Facebook is not like TikTok in that people come to Facebook and Instagram in particular to compare themselves against others.
Oh.
Whereas they go to TikTok for entertainment.
Yeah.
They go to Twitter for news. And Facebook knows that this comparison part of the app is actually a real problem. It's what they say in their own documents. And I think it should have been a focus in the hearing, but of course it wasn't, because when it comes to legislators, I don't think there's anyone less effective than Richard Blumenthal.
Right,
doesn't really seem very interested in doing anything.
Nor am I. I've been down this road long enough to not compare myself to people on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok. But yeah, if you're 13 or 14, you're trying to figure out what life is all about. I can't imagine growing up with those signals constantly flooding in on you.
Absolutely.
But in fairness, there is a societal part to this, because you are at that age, starting from school, you're encouraged to compare yourself to others.
That's right.
And I'm not obviously comparing schools with Instagram, but I'm saying from a broader societal perspective, I think
it's not schools. It's the peer group. It's peer pressure. You should be like us. You should be like those are the cool girls. Why don't you look like them? Schools try sometimes. Some schools, good schools, try to fight that. But I think you're right, Caroline.
I don't know. I do think that is the education system too, where, you have a score and you need to fit into some parameters. And, there are outliers, either because you're behind or you're ahead of others, and you're getting into that still, what is considered normal or average versus not. So it's been fascinating. One of the things that we did as well over the past few years was to switch from school to homeschooling, spending a year almost deschooling, and in terms of asking questions and feeling that you can fail and you don't have to get it right, that the process that you go through in working something out, whether it's math or science or whatever, is as important as getting the final and right answer, right? It's quite fascinating.
So actually, this is something that COVID has, in a way, brought up, certainly in the workplace. And I think our schools are very much like workplaces in the sense that they have an industrial era mentality of, you come in, we get you to fit into the mold, and we crank out people that fit into society. And it's all about getting you, mushing down the sharp bits so that you fit. And that industrial era mentality, whether it's in work or in schooling, was a little bit challenged, I think, during the pandemic. But kids had to go home. They had to do Zoom. They weren't surrounded by their peers. And the teachers were no longer really able to to squish the sharp points out quite as much. Offices had to let workers go home and work from home. And now, as we start to emerge from COVID, and I'm sure you might say we are not emerging yet, but as we hope we start to emerge from COVID, I think the world's going to be a very different place. And maybe schooling, they'll take an opportunity for schooling to rethink how it works. I know a lot of kids are still Zooming to school. So here's an opportunity. Alex, do you see that you must see that in tech companies kind of reassessing post-COVID?
Yeah. Well, I think that, like, we all know that the hybrid workplace is going to be the way that we move forward from this, and we're never going to go back to 5 days in the office, mandatory for everyone inside every company. I think that's over. I think it's pretty good, honestly. Like, we've now realized that there's a balance where we can, look at what's happened with the economy since we went into lockdown. It's, been on an amazing run. And of course, some of that has to do with federal stimulus, but you can't tell me that productivity in the economy has slowed down in a noticeable way. If anything, it seems like it's the opposite. So we should give workers the opportunity to spend a couple of days, at home and a couple of days in the office, if that's their decision. Or maybe you trust people to spend every day at home.
Yeah.
And we're starting to figure out the ways that we're going to make this work. For instance, I was just on a Zoom meeting where we had me and then somebody else remote and then two people in the office together. And they kind of sat side by side on their own laptop. So they each get their own Zoom bubble. And then me and the other remote guy had our own Zoom bubble. And was it weird? Yeah, it was a little weird, especially for them. But it worked.